Hey guys, it's Moonlander, and I wanted to start another series on my channel where I go through Amazon Prime and Netflix and review horror movies and see if they're any good. The first movie that I'm going to be taking a look at is called They're Watching. They're Watching is a found footage movie, so much for my break from found footage. And it's directed by two guys that write for video games, and one of them worked in the art department on SpongeBob. So they're not exactly horror movie directors. So the movie's about a television crew that does a show about home renovations and new home buyers.
Moldova's beautiful. I think it's time for a change. I want to slow down, focus on my life.
Becky wants the house to raise a family.
And the crew follows this woman that buys a house in Eastern Europe. And it's a house located in the middle of the woods, nearby a small village. And after the woman buys the house, they return 6 months later to see what renovations she's made. And when they return to the village, they find the townspeople are really suspicious acting. And there seems to be something going on in the town that they don't really know what is the cause of it, or they just think everybody's weird. And when they go to the lady's house, she has turned the house into a really nice looking, kind of cottage in the middle of the woods, so it's pretty cool. And as the movie goes on, you find out that there's a history of a witch living in that same location.
Say witch.
Vrajitoare.
So no, it's definitely not okay.
Let's just do our jobs and get out of here quickly.
Wait, are you sure this is the right house?
Your house looks great.
Thank you.
So the movie's about a witch coming about again 100 years later. Now this movie is a comedy first and a horror movie second. It doesn't really become a horror movie till the last 20 or so minutes of the movie. Otherwise, you're treated to a pretty funny movie. All of the characters in this movie really work well for what they were going for here. They're pretty well written, and they're all believable characters. And between the weird townspeople and the film crew and the boss of the film crew, you get quite a few laughs out of this movie. At least me and my wife did. And for being a found footage movie, this one's done in a way where it wouldn't be offensive to somebody that doesn't care for found footage. It's almost hard to tell that it's even found footage at times, but it is. All the footage is from the film crew and everything they shot while it was happening. And another thing I liked about this movie is, while it's mostly a comedy for the first hour or so, the ending, it has a pretty cool ending, and it was pretty surprising what happens. And you get to watch a witch going around and killing a bunch of people. It's pretty cool. And the things I didn't like about this movie, for being a horror movie, it really is pretty light on the horror. And then, without giving too much about the end away, you do see quite a few people get killed, and it all involves CGI gore, and it's not really quality CGI gore, and it's not that great, but at the same time, for found footage, it's kind of unique to see that much gore and special effects taking place. So my final thoughts on this movie is it is good and it is entertaining for a found footage movie. And it's definitely a decent comedy horror. And with the good characters and the decent writing, it's really an enjoyable experience watching this. And I don't really think a horror fan could go wrong with this. Just don't expect like a serious tone when watching this. It's really pretty lighthearted. And for the most part, it's more a comedy than a horror, but I do suggest it, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Because I just thought it was all around an enjoyable experience, and definitely one on Netflix worth watching. Alright, you guys, I'll see you on the next review.